Today, I want to use the Odyssey to talk about the whoopsie boy genre and how it reveals that manhood is man's fate worse than death. To define a whoopsie boy, we first have to talk about Bell Hooks. In All About Love, she talks about how a new generation of American men who experienced the feminist cultural revolution felt relief in learning they didn't have to become macho men, but the alternative they found to that was to not become men at all, to remain boys. As they grew older, they found women to replace their mothers in providing unconditional care. When these women eventually wanted them to grow into adulthood to become equal partners, men blamed them for cajoling them out of their boyhood and for the fears of not being up to the task of being a man. We see this repeatedly with Odysseus and Calypso, just like when he asked her if she did something to his men, all who died under his leadership, and when he accuses her of keeping him captive by feeding him the lotus. But we know that even before she found him, he didn't want to go home. And when she tells him to stop eating the lotus so that he can stop clouding his mind, he says, and I quote, "But I love it." Not all men, but many men hand over their agency to their female partners, packaged as a gift of trust and empowerment, when in fact it removes their accountability for their actions as boys or their inaction as men. The women of the Odyssey are often associated with pain, but they're not the ones doing the punishing. What they do is reflect back to Odysseus and his men who they are, whether intentionally or just by reaction. Knowing that he failed to be the man that he wanted to be, Odysseus runs, incapable of facing his own shame. Because as we learn from the Sirens, the most painful thing is not to not get what we want, but to have what we want and not feel worthy of it. But shame is hard to escape. Men are often pressured to become leaders before they understand accountability, to be brave before they understand fear or how to tell it apart from anger, and to be providers before they learn how to listen to other people's needs. When they inevitably fail to meet these expectations, just like all of us do as we earn our way to adulthood, men oftentimes feel shame because importance was placed so heavily on being rather than becoming. This is also seen in Odysseus' son wanting to be king to what he thinks an empty throne, although Penelope has been sitting on it without the recognition of doing so. Boys want to be men rather than become adults, and many don't value women who are adults simply because they're not men. But notice how in the absence of women, who takes on the role is the leader of men. That's what happens in the Sun God's Island when Odysseus' men hide from him. They cared more that Odysseus not judge them than the Sun God himself. What they couldn't bear was to see in his face how far they had strayed away from the version of themselves they wanted to be. In hiding from themselves, it's not a surprise that we often learn more about men from the stories they leave behind than from their emotional participation. Just like Odysseus hopes that his previously unspoken feelings and intentions would be enough for Sinon, although they come far too late to provide any comfort in the afterlife. Women have become vessels through which many men have come to face that they too have to step into adulthood. And they're resented for this, although they are not the ones forcing them to become adults, but life itself. But the actual ask is not to abandon care, gentleness, or playfulness. It's that men become present in their partnerships by becoming active participants in their lives. So, what is an whoopsie boy? An whoopsie boy is a man or a boy whose main defense against responsibility, accountability, or repair is his innocence. The one who, after causing great pain, feels his atonement is complete simply because he has learned his lesson. So my question is, what happens when a whoopsie boy who wants to be good, be a partner, be present, works on becoming an adult rather than be a man?